Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Welcome to another edition of Dungeons and Social Distancing with Nerdarchy.
Today we discuss Unearthed Arcana 2020 Subclasses Revisited.
If you don't want those D&D videos to ghost your YouTube feed, make like a phantom rogue and hit that subscribe button.
And if you don't want to miss another Nerdarchy video, make a pact with that notification bell.
Today we're going to be talking about Unearthed Arcana, and before we jump into that content, we might as well talk about our sponsor and give them a quick shout out, because without them, it would be much harder for us to do what we do. And that sponsor is D&D Beyond. They help with us in creating our characters, building our campaigns. They got so much great content over there. It's a huge database. Not only that, you can probably find these subclasses that we're going to talk about over on D&D Beyond for free.
D&D Beyond is a great resource. We use it for our campaigns. We use it for creating our characters. We even use it for creating our own homebrew content. There's a lot of great stuff, a lot of great resources. And if you're not ready to dive in whole hog, feel free to check out all of the great articles, the great videos, and all of the SRD stuff that's there. It's all free content that you can go check out. Got to use D&D Beyond.
Link in the description. All right, let's get into it. We have another Unearthed Arcana. It's kind of a beefy one. It's one of the revisited, so that means that they've kind of covered these subclasses before. They've changed them, they tweaked them. You know, they've responded to the feedback, and now we're going to find out what that looks like. So we've got three of them. We have a rogue, we have a warlock, and we have a wizard subclass.
So the Phantom is a revised rogue subclass that was previously called the Revived. The Genie, a revised warlock subclass that was previously called the Noble Genie. And Order of the Scribes is a new wizard subclass that reimagines the Archivist subclass for the Artificer. So we definitely have some changes and stuff that's going on. So we're not going to do a complete compare and contrast. We'll read what's here, and we might remark on some of the older stuff.
All right, so first up, we have the rogue archetype, the Phantom. Many rogues walk a fine line between life and death, risking their own lives and taking the lives of others. While adventuring on that line, some rogues discover a mystical connection to death in itself. These rogues take knowledge from the dead and become immersed in negative energy, eventually becoming like ghosts. Thieves' guilds value them as highly effective information gatherers and spies. Many Shadowkai of the Shadowfell are masters of these macabre techniques, and some are willing to teach this path. In places like Thay, Forgotten Realms, and Karnath Ebron, where many necromancers practice their craft, a phantom can become a wizard's confidant and right hand. In temples of gods of death, the phantom works as an agent to track down those who try to cheat death and recover knowledge that might otherwise be lost to the grave. How did you discover this grim power? Did you sleep in a graveyard and awaken to your new abilities, or did you cultivate them in a temple or thieves guild dedicated to a god of death?
Reading this, it just it fills my character creation aspect, my creativity, if you will, with so many awesome ideas. And me who loves using faith and the cleric being my favorite class, I immediately dive towards that that last example of them working for a temple to gods of death and trying to recover lost knowledge. That's an aspect that you don't really see a lot of rogues taking. So to me, that one speaks the most. I thought very evocative wording there.
It made me think of the Game of Thrones, God of Many Faces, and the Faceless Ones. Definitely, they definitely seemed more like rogues or assassins than they did priests or clerics. So,
I mean, for all we know, that's kind of where the ideas could have come from for this reimagining.
And this is like completely different than because the previous version, it was you died, right? Maybe you've died a bunch of times, and that was the kind of the lore, and that was called the Revived.
Yeah, and while that aspect could be, still fun to play, you'd be up to your DM, how you want to quote unquote awaken or cultivate disabilities. But some didn't like that, and that's their feedback that they got. So they decided to take it in a different direction. So third level, you get Whispers of the Dead, which is pretty close to the same power as what you got before. Echoes of those who died begin to cling to you. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you gain one skill or tool proficiency of your choice as a ghostly presence shares its knowledge with you, and the proficiency lasts until you finish a long rest. So we already have the rogue, a skill heavy class, getting access to a skill or tool that they didn't have before, that you've got the ability to change out. So it really does have that, mask of many faces, thing where it's like, all right, well, today I'm going to talk to this ghost, and hey, now I know Arcana, and I'm going to go do this because there's no limitation. It's pretty awesome, pretty powerful in my opinion.
Previously, it was tokens of past lives, and it was only on a long rest. So that's basically a tweak there. Other than that, it's kind of the same.
So Wails from the Grave is another third level power. As you nudge someone closer to the grave, you can cause deathly wails to be heard near them. Immediately after you deal your sneak attack damage to a creature on your turn, you can target a second creature that you can see within 30 feet of that creature. Roll half the number of sneak attack dice for your level, round up, and the second creature takes psychic damage equal to the roll's total as wails of the dead around them sound around them for a moment. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Holy crap, psychic damage that you just can do. There's no attack roll, there's no saving throw. I think that is super powerful for a third level ability. And as soon as you're doing it, it's only 2d6 damage, but that goes up, right, as you begin advancing in this class. So I think that's potent.
Well, you're doing half damage, so it's not as potent as your sneak attack. It is extra damage. It's not bad. We're seeing a new mechanic. We're seeing it's going off your proficiency bonus instead of a stat or a set number of things.
And we do see that proficiency bonus, scattered throughout here, which is a good thing in my opinion.
So Whales of the Grave actually is replacing Revived Nature and Bolts of the Grave. Bolts of the Grave was basically giving you, another thing to do with your cunning action, I believe, where you could basically make a negative energy necrotic attack, energy attack, which was your sneak attack. It counted as your sneak attack. And the other ability was it just gave you a bunch of like benefits, like small benefits, like I think resistance to poison was one of them. Advantage on, you might have gotten advantage on death saves. There was a list of things. So really, while you're like, oh, this is super powerful, this is strong, they've actually scaled back.
Sure.
You're actually getting more from the previous version. And when I compare and contrast the two, I'm like, wow, the last one was really, really strong.
And I'm not gonna argue with that point.
So 9th level, we get another ability called Tokens of the Departed. When a life ends in your presence, you're able to snatch a token from the departing soul, a sliver of its life essence that takes physical form. As a reaction, when a creature you can see dies within 30 feet of you, you open your free hand and a tiny trinket appears there, a soul trinket. The DM chooses the trinket's form or has you roll on the trinkets table in the player's handbook. While the soul trinket is on your person, you have advantage on death saving throws and constitution saving throws, as your vitality is enhanced by the life essence within the object. You can have a maximum number of soul trinkets equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can create one while you can't create one while you're at your maximum. As an action, you can destroy one of your soul trinkets no matter where it is located. When you do so, you can ask the spirit associated with the trinket one question. Spirit appears to you and answers in a language it knew in life. It is under no obligation to be truthful, and answers as concisely as possible, eager to be free.
I really like this ability. I think it's cool. It's very flavorful. It's creepy if used in a certain way. But like I look at the role playing capabilities of this. Yeah, you're getting advantage on death saves and con saves, super powerful. I think the con aspect might be, a bit much, but since it's the only thing you're getting at ninth level, I'm willing to let that go. Um, but the ability to ask, the data question around you, there's a lot of times that it's happened in games where a vital NPC has died because you failed to protect it or what have you, and you just, you needed that one last question, and here's a way that you could go ahead and do that without needing to change the story or rewrite something or go on a long quest to get them resurrected just for a simple question.
So Tokens of the Departed is a rewrite for Connect with the Dead. It used to be able to speak with dead as a spell. Basically, you could just do it. And then you would gain a random ability, whether it was a proficiency in a language, skill, tool, or saving throw. So in comparison, it's not any more powerful, I would say. And also here, if you use that trinket, then you don't get to access those abilities.
I imagine that rogues are going to keep one on and very rarely use the aspect of breaking it. At ninth level, I think you're sitting at a +4, so you could have 4 of them, and you only need 1 active in order to gain those benefits. So I definitely see leaving 2 or 3 spots free and be like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll break this one to ask that question when I get, I don't know.
It's true, they do last a while. So
13th level, you got Ghost Walk. 13th level ability, you can now phase partially into the realm of dead, becoming like a ghost. As a bonus action, you assume 13th level, you get Ghost Walk. You can now phase partially into the realm of the dead, becoming like a ghost. As a bonus action, you assume a spectral form. While in this form, you have a flying speed of 10, you can hover, and attack rolls have disadvantage against you. You can also move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take 1d10 force damage if you end your turn inside a creature or an object. You can stay in this form for 10 minutes or until you end it as a bonus action. To use this feature again, you must finish a long rest or destroy one of your soul trinkets as part of the bonus action to use to activate Ghost Walk.
So now we're seeing more ways to use those trinkets and more ways for the GM to suck them out of your greedy little hands. So there's instances may come. You may need to answer a question. You may need to use this ability for whatever reason. So that comes up. So this is going to replace Audience with Death, and that was advantage on death saves. And when you would actually go unconscious or go to 0 hit points, you would get to ask Death a question while you're kind of out of it in between realms, which was a really cool ability that we kind of thought of funny uses for. Um, but now the Ghost Walk thing is kind of cool too.
Oh, I completely agree. I like this aspect. 17th level, you get Death Knell. When you use your Whales from the Grave feature, you can now deal psychic damage to both the first and second creature. So now you've dealt sneak attack damage to somebody, and now you're going to double up and do psychic damage on top of that. That's pretty nice. You're gonna hit that first person really hard.
Yeah, the first person is going to get hit really hard, and the second person is going to get hit still hard, pretty much, right? So Death Knell replaces Ethereal Jaunt, which basically you used to be able, as a bonus action, or just using your cunning action, teleport 30 feet every round. So they're both really good. I do like the Death Knell ability. I think it's thematic. Whales from the Grave is really cool. I'm really a little unsure about the actual how it happens in the game. I like the mechanics of it, but I'm not really feeling the RP of it. The effect itself.
So I for this, I would rather them see you picking a second and third creature rather than doubling up, or 1.5 times your sneak attack damage. Because at 17th level, you're, 8 dice that you're rolling. So the first person, okay, you hit them with an attack, they take, your whatever weapon damage, they take, 8 dice of sneak attack and then 4 dice of psychic damage. That it's not huge, but it's still pretty potent, to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna really hit one person hard, rather than the limiting factor of, well, I can now spread that 4 die 6 out to two other targets, just to cover a little bit more. I don't know, just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too powerful when you like set it aside like the assassin. The
Oh,
assassin is a
completely.
little bit harder to line up, but when you do, it's 3 times your
Yeah,
sneak
yeah.
damage on a target. So, but this is going to be more consistent. You'll be able to
Yes.
get this off, every time pretty much. So,
as
so
as long as long as you're actually making the successful attack, the Whales from the Grave is just damage. There's no, unless you resist psychic damage, there is no stopping it, because again, there's no attack, there's no save, it just hits, which I think is super potent, which is why I would say go with.
rogues are just really good in 5th edition, pretty much. It's also 17th level. The game's almost over at this point. So all in all, I think it's a good subclass. I do like the revisions. I like the idea that it's these death cult rogues better than the idea that you're somebody who's died and come back. That has more appeal to me. Plus, from the standpoint of this is a class that could potentially be picked over and over again. Like, how many people have died a bunch of times and then come back? After a certain point, when you think about how many people potentially could play this class.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love the thematic rewrite, and there's technically nothing to say that if you wanted to have use the imagining of the first class of you've died, if you can convince your DM to say, yeah, that warrants it, sure, no problem. I mean, there's nothing to there's no penalties in 5th edition for dying like in previous, so you could easily look at this and say, okay, well, you know what, story wise, I died, somehow I came back, and now I'm this. Write it up, make it happen, sure. But the other aspects that they put in here to give you that you didn't die, I think definitely bulk this out and make it more of an organization, or attached to multiple organizations as they did, rather than just this rare occurrence.
So with that, next we move into Warlock, and we have the Genie, formerly known as the Noble Genie. So, slight change in name, not much is going on there. You have made a pact with one of the rarest kinds of genie, a noble genie. Such entities are rulers of vast fiefs on the elemental planes and have great influence over lesser genies and elemental creatures. Noble genies are varied in their motivations, but are all arrogant and wield power that rivals that of lesser deities. They delight in turning the table on mortals who so love to bind genies into servitude, readily entering into pacts that expand their reach across the multiverse. You choose your patron's kind or determine it randomly using the genie kind table. Each kind of genie is associated with a particular element, as shown on the table below. So this part is a little bit different. I mean, it's not not a lot. It's just like you're gonna have ties to a specific element essentially, and that's gonna be Deo, Jin, Afridi, or Myriad. So which will correspond with those. You can either roll, you can pick, and from there you're going to get into an expanded spell list of spells that you can choose. This is actually different. Before it was just one spell list. Now it is one spell list where you get one spell from, and then depending on whether you went with a Deo, Jin, Afridi, or Myriad, determines the second spell. As you can see,
And the thing that they added that I think was really really thematic was at ninth level you have added wish, which absolutely makes sense to be able to put on the warlock spell list for someone serving a genie.
yes.
Uh,
uh,
it's almost a no-brainer in my opinion. So beyond the spell list, the expanded spell list, at first level they also get Genie's Vessel. Your patron gifts you a magical vessel that grants you a measure of the genie's power. This vessel is a tiny object, and you can use it as a spellcasting focus for your warlock spells. You decide what the object is, or you can determine what it is randomly by rolling on the table. You've got an oil lamp, an urn, a ring with a compartment, a stoppered bottle, a hollow statuette, or an ornate lantern. While you are touching the vessel, you can use it in the following ways. Bottled Respite. As an action, you can magically vanish and enter your vessel, which remains in the space you left. The interior of the vessel is an extra-dimensional space in the shape of a 20-foot radius cylinder, 20 foot high, and resembles your vessel. The interior is comfortably appointed with cushions and low tables and is comfortable temperature. While inside, you can hear the area around your vessel as if you were in its space. You can remain inside the vessel up to a number of hours equal to twice your proficiency bonus. You exit the vessel early if you use a bonus action to leave, if you die, or the vessel is destroyed. When you exit the vessel, you appear in the unoccupied space closest to it. Any objects left in the vessel remain there until carried out, and if the vessel is destroyed, every object stored there harmlessly appears in the unoccupied space closest to the vessel's former space. Once you enter the vessel, you can't enter again until you finish a long rest. You also have Genie's Wrath. Once during each of your turns, when you hit it with an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to your proficiency bonus. This type of damage is determined by your patron: bludgeoning if you're a Dao, thunder if you're a Genie, fire if you're a Nefriti, or cold if you're a Married. The vessel's AC equals your spell save DC, its hit points equal your Warlock level plus your proficiency bonus, and it is immune to poison and psychic damage. If the vessel is destroyed or if you lose it, you can perform a 1 hour ceremony to retrieve a replacement from your patron. The ceremony can be performed during a short or long rest, and the previous vessel is destroyed if it still exists. The vessel vanishes in a flare of elemental power when you die.
I had mixed feelings about these, right? So it used to be collector's vessel, which whatever, the name is just a minor change. And previously you created a tether between you and another person,
Mm-hmm.
which conferred some benefits. One, it increased your gave you a bonus to perception, but also it allowed you to deliver spells from that tether space, from that person's space, making it a buffing warlock kind of, from that, and some other abilities. Now that being said, while I really enjoyed that and thought that was cool, I do like these abilities better. They're very thematic. It's very cool. I mean, being able to go into your vessel like a Genie would is super
Mm-hmm.
cool. I can't wait to see the creative uses players will do with this, like stashing that vessel someplace so that they can spy on people.
You can use it to spy. If it's a ring with a compartment. Okay, I'm going to take the ring off. I'm going to hand it to my rogue. I'm going to go inside. The rogue is going to sneak in somewhere because my deck sucks. Once he gets inside, I'm going to pop back out, take my ring back. We're going to go do this thing, and then the rogue will sneak back out, and I'll find some other way out. However it is that you do it. But you also can, stash it on somewhere to be able to, get in someplace. There's so many great ways that you can do it. Let alone the ability of I'm going to store items in it, and I will retrieve them later. That's another thing that would be great for thieves and what have you. So I definitely see, a lot of awesome uses for
Yeah, your rogue uses sleight of hand to slip your vessel into somebody's pocket or pack, while you're inside of it. So there's definitely like some cool thematic like RP and exploration type stuff that you can have happen on it because of it. Genie's Wrath, again, we're seeing that thing. We're using our proficiency bonus to come up and determine the amount of damage. It's just extra damage. It's not like super exciting, but it'll be useful. It'll come up over and over again. It'll just make your Eldritch Blast that much better.
Moving on, Elemental Gift at 6th level, you begin to take on characteristics of your patron's kind. You now have resistance to a damage type determined by your patron's deity. Elemental Gift at 6th level, you begin to take on the characteristics of your patron's kind. You now have resistance to a damage type determined by your patron's kind. Bludgeoning if you're a Dao, thunder if you're a Genie, fire if you're a Nefriti, or cold if you're a Married. In addition, as a bonus action, you can give yourself a flying speed of 30 that lasts for 10 minutes, during which you can hover. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So a fly speed, damage resistance that's permanent. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different than what you were getting before. It's not too different, but it used to be elemental resistance. The difference before was you would pick and you could change it, and also your tether person would also get the same bonus, is the same resistance as well. So that was kind of cool. But you know, this definitely works. Getting a fly speed always useful. Resistance always useful. Some of these resistances are far better than others. Now I can see, like, if you have the Dow, you know, every time players going to be like, is he hitting me with bludgeoning damage? Because they're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah, and bludgeoning is definitely common. Fire is common. Cold less so. Thunder even less than that. But I mean, it's one of those things, like, you have to, look at, well, when you're using, the damage from your wrath, you're also doing something that is far more common. Therefore, things are going to have resistance to it. So it's a give and take, and then you can compare that with the spell access that you get. So definitely a lot of fun.
So next up, we have Sanctuary Vessel, 10th level Genie feature. When you enter Genie's vessel via the Bottle of Respite feature, you can now choose up to 5 willing creatures that you can see within 30 feet of you, and the chosen creatures are drawn into the vessel with you. As a bonus action, you can eject any number of creatures from the vessel, and everyone is ejected if you leave or if the vessel is destroyed. In addition, anyone, including you, who remains within the vessel for at least 10 minutes gains the benefit of finishing a short rest, and anyone can add your proficiency bonus to the number of hit points they regain if they spend any hit dice as part of a short rest there. So this is a really cool ability, and it is going to be replacing Protective Wish, which was, as a reaction, you switch places with your tethered allied, so they could be attacked instead of you, and vice versa. And also Genie's Entertainment, which used to be the ability to basically, you sent someone to your Genie boss, and they were just stunned and had to hang out, and your Genie boss would marvel over them for up to a minute, depending on saving throws. I like this. Being able to take a short rest in 10 minutes for your party, super cool. And then all those things we were kind of talking about before with the Bottle of Respite, now you can do it with the whole party.
I look at the Genie boss thing. It was definitely a lot of fun. Even though they weren't going to take damage because the Genie protects them, it was definitely one of those things. I'm like, all right, that could be a little intimidating. But the 10-minute short rest, is definitely a lot of fun. And all of all right, let's sneak in and we'll pop out later. Yeah, a lot of fun there.
It's one of those things where it's like, you don't even know all the like cool and interesting ways your players are going to think of to abuse that power. So definitely to think about. And again, we are getting a little bit buff here because now the Warlock gives you a little bit of a bonus to heal. And at that point, you're getting like an extra 4 hit points. It's not amazing, but then again, you're also getting to do it in 10 minutes. So that part's nice.
Limited wish at 14th level. You entreat your patron to grant you a small wish. As an action, you can speak your desire to your Genie's vessel, requesting the effect of one spell that is 6th level or lower and has a casting time of 1 action. The spell can be from any class spell list, and you don't need to meet the requirement in that spell, including costly components. The spell simply takes effect as part of the action. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish 1d4 long rests.
New mechanic. So we're saying new mechanic. They're testing it out. While it is a super strong ability, I don't know if it's 1d4 long rest strong, to be honest with you.
But didn't the original ability have something along those lines? Not the exact same effect, but like you had to make a persuasion check against your own DC.
The original one was Protective Wish. No, I'm sorry. The original one was Collector's Hall. And yes, there was the persuasion check versus your spell DC, which was weird. So you were like almost forced to take persuasion if you were taking this kind. I mean, it made sense to take it, but at the same time, you're kind of pigeonholed, or you're going to be hampered. But Collector's Hall, you had a list of several abilities. One of them was healing plus remove a condition. One of them was impose disadvantage on attacks and saves for 1 round. or one of them was cast a legend lore, and you could refresh this ability by bribing your genie boss pretty much with like gold and treasure and stuff. So yeah, so this is probably gonna be way more useful. I think it's cool. Like, boom, grab a spell from 6th level or lower, super strong. But again, it's once a day, so I could see this one just being every long rest as opposed to rolling a D4. And maybe you can't use it in 4 days, but maybe it doesn't matter because of the games you play.
That's very true. It depends upon what style of game. Uh, I like the fact that it's any spell from any list, no costly components. That very much fits with exactly what a genie would do or could do. And you've got a 25% chance that it's gonna just be able to be used every day. What have you. Uh, to me, there's a bit of whimsy in having it be 1d4 long rests. It's harder to track, um, you know, because you got to like, okay, well, what did I roll? So I have to erase one every time I finish a long rest, type scenario. D&D Beyond might have, if this goes in, as is, D&D Beyond might have to figure out how to properly track that ability. Because usually long rest, it resets everything. But, here this would be different.
Yeah, yeah. Adam Bradford's over there going, really, guys, really?
But like I said, that whimsy feature, I like it, and it's kind of cool. So,
all right. So what do we got up next?
Next up is Wizard, Order of the Scribes, Magic of the Book. That's what many spellcasters call wizardry. The name is apt, given how much time wizards spend poring over their spellbooks, penning theories about the nature of magic, and exploring the farthest recesses of libraries. It's rare to see a wizard traveling without books and scrolls sprouting from their bag, and wizards would go to great lengths to plumb the archives of ancient knowledge. Among wizards, the Order of Scribes is the most bookish. It takes many forms in different worlds, but its primary mission is the same everywhere: recording magical discoveries in tomes and scrolls so that wizardry can flourish. And while every wizard values their spellbook, a scribe in the Order of Scribes dedicates themselves to magically awakening their book, turning it into a trusted companion. All wizards study their spellbooks, but wizardly scribes talk to theirs.
This one is the biggest change, right? Because it was the archivist previously, and it was an artificer class. So this is basically a rewrite with some of the flavor from that one. So we won't be doing the comparison that we've been doing, just because even the levels don't match up for when you get abilities and stuff. It's completely different. I will say the archivist was like this weird AI/internet version of magic. This is a little more thematic and works a little bit more in a fantasy setting.
You got to awaken an object, which in this case it's an awakened spellbook instead. I love this wizard. There's a character that we've talked about a couple of times on the channel before. One of my friends, Jim, played Giles the librarian, and this totally fits right with him because it's the most bookish, and he really was a wizard nerd. Wizardly Quill, 2nd level. As a bonus action, you can magically create a tiny quill in your free hand. The magic quill has the following properties. The quill doesn't require ink. When you write with it, it produces ink in a color of your choice on the writing surface. The gold and time you must spend to copy a spell into your spellbook are halved if you use the quill for the transcriptions. You can erase anything you write with the quill if you wave a feather over the text as a bonus action, provided the text is within 5 feet of you. The quill disappears if you create another one or if you die.
Only one of these abilities really matters as far as I'm concerned, and that is
Golden
the
time.
fact. Golden time is huge, and that literally makes you better than any other wizard in the sense that it's so much cheaper and easier to fill your spell book. I will tell you, as a wizard who was playing in a game that didn't have access to as many spell books or as much gold, depending on what time period that character was in their adventuring career, that is a huge deal. It's a big deal. Because the wizard is really the only class that gets penalized in gold for advancing and doing what they do.
You know,
It becomes very expensive fast.
early on, I would say that, the fighter would be equal as they're trying to buy new armors, or anyone that's going to wear armor, I should say, any martial character. But as soon as you begin finding magic items and magic armors and that kind of stuff, that winds up going away. Whereas the wizard still has that deficit, still has that, oh, I have to pay gold in order to, get more versatility with my casting. So I completely agree with you. But to me, I love the other nuanced things of, being able to erase so you're not crossing out, and the not needing ink and being able to change the color. Like, these are whimsy things, but to me, those kind of things are awesome, because, like, oh my God, here's a book, that's written in, multiple different inks. And somebody who might not think of adding that into their game, others might be like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder what they use. And they might, try to experiment and what have you. And it's like, nope, it's just the fact that I'm holding a special pen.
Now, when you encounter a scribe that it doesn't have ink smudges all over them, you're gonna be highly suspicious as to whether or not they're this class or not. But you know what? That's not the only ability they get at second level either. They also get Awakened Spellbook. Using especially prepared inks and ancient incantations passed down by your wizardly order, you have awakened an arcane sentience within your spellbook. While you're holding the book, it grants you the following benefits. You can use the book as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. When you cast a wizard spell with a spell slot, you can temporarily replace its damage type with the damage type of another spell in your spellbook, as your spellbook magically alters the spell formula for this casting. When you cast a wizard spell as a ritual, you can use the spell's normal casting time rather than adding 10 minutes to it. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. If necessary, you can replace the book over the course of a short rest by using your wizardly quill to write arcane sigils in a blank book or a magical spellbook to which you're attuned. At the end of the rest, your spellbook's consciousness is summoned into the new book, which the consciousness transforms into your spell book along with all its spells. If the previous book will exist somewhere, all the spells vanish from its pages. This last two paragraphs or so, right, that aren't even listed as like the ability, is one of the strongest. But,
I I have several things underlined in my copy here of like things to talk about.
yes, I mean, not only do you get your spells for faster and cheaper than any other wizard, you cannot lose them now. That is the worst part about being a wizard, is if you ever lose that spell book, you are kind of boned and have to start over again. This wizard just summons all of the spells back. This is a super strong ability, and we're not even talking about the actual abilities, right? Because you get to use your book as a spell focus. Love that. I mean, the idea is very thematic. It looks cool. Your book is out. You're casting from it. Super cool. You can also change the damage from one energy to another type, as long as you have that kind of spell in your book. We're seeing a little bit of
no limitation. You can just change the damage type to another spell in your spell book. So if one of your spells says, oh, I can do psychic damage, you can now throw psychic fireballs.
Yeah,
no limitation.
But you still have to have it in your book. So you have to have the damage type. Well, it all depends what you find, But yes, you can change the types, which is a big deal. And this is being pulled over from the Lore Master, I believe. And yeah, being able to pick something that things are rarely ever immune to is awesome. It also creates this effect in the game for your wizard as well, as he's going to be hunting for more stuff as well, because it's going to impact his spells a lot more than it would a regular wizard's. Now, like, it's like I only need fireball and it will be any damage I need it to be, as long as I have those damage types in my book. I mean, it could be, instead of fireball, it could be sword ball, right? If you have something that does piercing damage. So that's a lot of fun. And, once a day, you can do a ritual really fast. Whoop-de-doo. It's not a big deal, not a game changer. But when you put that with everything else, and this is all second level. We haven't even gone past second level yet.
I know. And the other thing that I have underlined here is, you know, or a magic spell book to which you're attuned. So you know, I don't know off the top of my head how many different magical books there are in the DMG that requires attunement. But that to me opens up of like, okay, you know, are there magic spell books that are out there that, you know, you can put spells and stuff into? But I mean, anything that's a book that is a magic item that you attune, it now becomes a spell book as well when you want to replace it. And it's like, it's just going to add pages and you've got the ability to add stuff to it. I am marvel at the amount of power, you know, that this is you know, showing here.
Well, one book jumps to mind. It's the Vile Book of Darkness.
Yeah, yes,
Clearly
well,
is one of those spell books that you can make your own and, you know, transfer your book over.
right. You know, that's more on the, you know, the villainy side of things, but you know, certainly if you really wanted to go that.
My friend, you said the DMG.
I did indeed. I did. So moving on, 6th level, we get Master Scrivener. When you finish a long rest, you can create one magical scroll by touching your wizardly quill to a blank piece of paper or parchment and causing one spell from your awakened spellbook to be copied onto the scroll. The spellbook must be within 5 feet of you when you make the scroll. The chosen spell must be of 1st or 2nd level and must have a casting time of 1 action. Once in the scroll, the spell's power is enhanced, counting as 1 level higher than normal. You can cast a spell from the scroll by reading it as an action. The scroll is unintelligible to anyone else, and the spell vanishes from the scroll when you cast it or when you finish your next long rest. You're also adept at crafting spell scrolls, which are described in Chapter 7 of the DMG. The golden time you must spend to make such a scroll are halved if you use your wizardly quill. So this is giving you essentially an extra free casting of a spell, you know, essentially a 2nd or 3rd level spell slot, but it has to be, you know, a spell that is bumped. And you know, it's fun, it's useful. Getting access to, you know, making spell scrolls for, you know, half the cost and time is pretty nice as well if the DM is going to allow you to do that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but if you want to get the most out of it, obviously, you're going to want to put in a spell that can be increased in its power so you can get the full use of it. But it's a nice ability. Like, this is not a super strong level for this particular subclass, but it's not bad either. By no means is it ribbony. An extra casting is an extra casting. And then when you combine that with what they're already getting, this is a strong class, and we are just now getting the 10th level. We get Manifest Mind at 10th level. You are now able to conjure forth the mind of your awakened spellbook as a bonus action while the book is on your person. You can cause your mind to manifest as a tiny spectral construct, hovering in an unoccupied space of your choice within 60 feet of you. This presence is intangible and doesn't occupy its space, and it sheds dim light in a 10-foot radius. It looks like a ghostly tome, a cascade of text, or a scholar from the past, your choice. The spectral mind has a number of hit points equal to your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier, and it uses your armor class and saving throw modifiers. While manifested, the spectral mind can hear and see and has dark vision within 60 feet. As an action, you can hear and see using the senses instead of your own until your concentration ends, as if you're concentrating on a spell. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if you are in the spectral mind space instead of your own. Using its senses, you can do so as number of times per day equals to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. As a bonus action, you can cause the spectral mind to hover up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you or it can see. It can pass through creatures, but not objects. The spectral mind stops manifesting if it's ever more than 300 feet away from you. It drops to 0 hit points if you die or if you dismiss it as a bonus action. So the thing about this is you've just extended all your spells 300 feet, up to 300 feet, really, which is super useful. You can use it kind of as a limited familiar to spy and see things. You don't have to be there. You know, you could literally hide someplace and be casting your spells from your spectral mind. And like I said, it just increases it. Is it like super uber powerful? No, but when you put it with everything else this subclass gets, it's a really cool feature.
When you've got an imaginative player, someone who's thinking outside the box, you've got a ability that's pretty potent, pretty powerful, and they're going to be able to do some fun, interesting things with it, making that this particular class that much more powerful. If you're not the kind of person that likes to stretch abilities and see what you can get away with, this might not be for you. I think this class, like the wham bow factor is front loaded, but we're not done yet. I love this class for what it is. But you've got one with the word, 14th level. Your connection to your awakened spellbook has become so profound that your soul has become entwined with it. While you're holding the book and its spectral mind is manifest, you can take an action to cause the two of you to teleport, swapping places. You can teleport in this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses whenever you finish a long rest. This is nice. The next part is painful. I haven't played a lot of Wizards, but I understand the pain here. Moreover, if you die, but at least one spell remains in your awakened spellbook, you can return to life 1 minute later within 5 feet of the book. You revive with 1 hit point, then roll 3 die 6. The book loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to that roll or higher. For example, if the roll's total is 9, spells banished from the book that have a combined level of at least 9, which can mean 1 9th level spell, 3 3rd level spells, or some other combination. Thereafter, you are incapable of casting the lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or in another spell book. The only way to restore your ability to cast one of those lost spells is through the wish spell, which can restore 1 spell to the book per casting. I read this and my jaw nearly hit the floor of like, the book is powerful enough to bring you back to life, but it rips the spells from your book and from your mind and puts a black bar, when they highlight things, to have the things. That's the word I was looking for. Redacted. I'm like, it redacts these things from your mind. You can no longer do them. I was blown away when I read that. Really cool, but holy crap, the cost.
Yeah, I feel like there's other classes or subclasses get abilities that are similar to this without such a hefty cost. It is kind of cool, but it is so punitive. And again, also we're seeing a new mechanic. We're seeing this subclass reuse that other new mechanic of the proficiency bonus. So we're seeing a lot of that stuff going on, which is cool. So Wizards has definitely got something in their mind because they're testing that mechanic so hard. So I imagine we're going to see a version of that in the near future. And also these are revised. So I just kind of wonder what they're planning on using them for. Because, we've got this, Scribes subclass. We've got the Genie subclass. And we also have this, this revived Phantom. So what is the underlying theme? They must be getting close if they're doing it again to putting them in a product is my thought process.
Completely. I will say that there's another note here. Wither the Archivist. There's a cool little side note. The Order of Scribes reimagines the Archivist subclass, which originally appeared in the Unearthed Arcana as a subclass for the Artificer. The subclass was well liked, but there was a fair amount of confusion about its story, and many readers thought it might work better as a wizard subclass. Thematically, the subclass is perfect fit for the wizard, who has always been associated with scrolls and written word in D&D. So we've taken the bones from the Archivist and given it to the Order of Scribes. Regarding the other wizard subclasses, we can share that neither of the wizard subclasses we've previously presented in Unearthed Arcana recently, the Onomancy and Psionics, will be moving forward in our development process, since they didn't appeal to the people, and we can explore those subclass themes in other ways. So Onomancy and the Wizard Psionics have been basically scrapped, and it's like, oh, that's kind of a potent thing to hear. Just like, we're gonna toss this in a final paragraph in a sidebar. that some people might not have bothered looking at or seeing.
Well, the psionic wizard don't really care that much about, but the onomancy, I'm going to mourn that one a little one. That was interesting. That was cool. The power of true names. It was very problematic
Mm-hmm.
From the design aspect of it, but thematically it was very cool.
I
But
I agree with you. I liked onomancy. I want to see a proper psionic character class, not just subclasses. But I've said that and beaten that dead horse down. So I'm not going to keep going on that mountain.
yeah, for sure. But if you enjoyed us discussing Unearthed Arcana, we've got a whole playlist for Unearthed Arcana.
If you want to add more 5e content to your game, check out Nerdarchy on Patreon. We create new product every month.
And that's not all. We do weekly patron-only live chats, monthly giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered in, and more.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.
stay nerdy.